Had bark spuds with a kind of a flared blade and an extended handle, all made of in one piece of stone, that they could jab underneath the bark after it was scored, start lifting it, and they cut enormous sections of bark. Around 5 feet long was the preferred finished size of the bark that was removed, and it was simply dried, shipped to the tanneries, stacked for future use. I've seen stacks of tan bark, it was called, I would say roughly 30 feet in height underneath what we call the bark sheds. They all burned down, and was a tremendous pile of bark ashes after the IXL tannery burned up. That was one hellacious fire.
And where was that exactly in Tunkhannock?
Down on the railroad, actually directly behind the Kittredge soap plant, and there are traces there now.
Where was that in relationship to the Warren Hotel?
To the Warren Hotel? Well, the Warren Hotel faces west, and I would say it was not more than 220 yards upriver, so to speak, or to the west.
Right along the railroad tracks?
Yes.
Okay.
And there also there was a turntable for turning the Montrose branch Mother Hubbard engine. Instead of backing to Montrose, they come from Montrose down, turn it around. I don't know if there was a turntable in Montrose or not, but I've been on that old engine.
So you call it the old Mother Hubbard?
Yes. The cab was amidships. The tender or coal container was behind the cab, and the boiler itself was frontally located in front of the cab. They were a powerful little locomotive, and that pulled products from Tunkhannock to Montrose. Springville was one of the stops, and then also Dimmock. Lake Carey took many, many passengers from the Wilkes-Barre area on vacation up to Lake Carey. And I've walked it, camped by it, and even hopped the old Mother Hubbard freight coming back from swimming at Lake Carey.
Well, tell me about Lake Carey a little bit. What was Lake Carey like when you were young?
Beautiful. The water quality was amazingly good. Cottages, tremendous ring of cottages are all around the lake. It was a desirable place, a natural lake. Well, white man later built a dam at the south end of, that was the pond which adjoined Lake Carey. The name escapes me momentarily, but it became a very important summer vacation spot. The Montrose branch had passenger car that stopped there.
Did you ever meet Admiral Stark?
Yes, a fine man. He was actually...
Tell me about Admiral Stark a bit. He used to fly into Lake Carey, didn't he?
Yes, in a flying boat. And the name of that boat, I remember it like yesterday, was Anacostia, which there is an Anacostia naval base right near, it's on part of the Potomac River in Washington. And Admiral Stark was a very handsome, white-haired man, very likable person, and the Stark family were very historic and contributory to the development of that area we're speaking about. There was a mill, a good mill owned by Mr. Stark, the senior Stark man at that family, and I don't know if you remember, well, Jessie Stark was a daughter. She taught at Brookside, we call it Brookside University, Brookside School, and she, the mother of she was the wife of Charles Gay, and the Gay, there's a Charles now, Charles' grandson, quite active in the area. But the Stark name was very contributory to the history. They were pioneers, and they did a lot with timber. Mr. John Stark, whom I knew, they had a wonderful sawmill below the pond of Lake Carey. That was Flow Pond, it was called. Good fishing, and you could almost drink the water in Lake Carey. However, unbeknownst to us, there was sewage disposal from the cottages that went into the lake.
What relationship was John Stark to Admiral Stark?
I think a cousin. I saw Admiral Stark fly into Lake Carey twice. He owned a fine home up on the upper end of Lake Carey, and I knew people that managed it, and he was an impressive man. I saw him get off his flying boat and be saluted, etc., and brought ashore. He was an outstanding man, and he was chief of naval operations during World War II and had a lot on his hands. The carriers, the cruisers, everything was actually in his command, but he had lots of help. But he was a fine-looking man, articulate and good voice, patient and good. Very fine man. I admired him. But then I lost track of him, of course. He became very, very busy in World War II, and he didn't get up to Lake Carey as often as once in a while. But let's see, what year was the viaduct built in Nicholson?
Up in Nicholson, do you know? Is that late 1800s?
Gosh, it's marked on the piers, but I've lost track of the exact years. That originally was called the Tunkhannock Viaduct.
Mm-hmm.
The people of Nicholson, they deplored that. Now it's respectfully called the Nicholson Viaduct. By the way, that is one of the 7 wonders of the New World. That's a tremendous structure. I've climbed all over it, and it's still capable of carrying tremendous weight. That's the Lackawanna Railroad runs over that. Nicholson, they didn't have they may have had a tannery. They had a considerable sawmill. A Wesley Sloat, his name was, whom I have cut timber for. Maple sugar bush, tremendous maple trees approaching 5 feet in diameter that you cut and butted off 5 to 7 feet to get rid of the nails and spiles, they were called, which brought the maple sap into a bucket. Mm-hmm. The sap, the tapping of trees is very, very strong in my background. Our people up on our family farm in New York did a lot of it, produced many, many gallons of maple syrup and many pounds of maple sugar. That was one of our original sugars. That and honey and a few evaporated fruit juices was our sugar.